Pop-up postcode lockdowns could be used to squash future outbreaks of new COVID variants under plans to end the national lockdown. The PM has instructed Whitehall to come up with a blueprint after saying he wants to lift nationwide restrictions for good. It will be built on the experiences of last year's tier system and this month's localized mass testing effort to contain the South African variant. Targeted shutdowns would be imposed in postcodes where new variants are identified to stop the spread of potentially vaccine-resistant mutations. They will be accompanied by surge testing and a detailed contact tracing system to try and squash any outbreaks. The plan could be announced by Boris Johnson during next Monday's speech detailing his roadmap out of lockdown, according to the Times. This morning Care Minister Helen Whately also suggested localized lockdowns will be a key tool in keeping the virus under control. She told Sky News, "We have clearly learned a huge amount. We learned during the summer about how to manage localized outbreaks and take that approach." The PM has said he wants the exit from the national lockdown to be irreversible, which is why he's taking a cautious approach. But senior government sources said he was aware there might still be the need for swift local crackdowns. One said, "Clearly it is not a problem at the moment because of the existing lockdown restriction. But there is a big question about what you do when lockdown does start lifting and we see variants that we have considered. It is definitely something that we're aware of that will need to be considered. But we need to work out exactly what the mechanisms are that we need." Another said ministers are still deciding the form local curbs would take, and if they would retain the stay at home and get a test message. Residents in a number of postcodes across the country where variants have been detected have been told not to leave their houses. One minister even said people in such areas should raid their cupboards for leftovers rather than going to the shops for food. Ms. Whately said ministers want this to be the last ever national lockdown, so the country will leave it cautiously instead. But she was upbeat about the prospects that widespread curbs on daily life will have to be reintroduced. She said, "The important thing is that in the weeks and months ahead we take the steps to come out of lockdown, to move on from the restrictions we've had to have over most of the last year. We're in a much better place now. We've had nearly 16 million people vaccinated. That's a huge deal. We have an enormous testing capacity as well. We've learned a huge amount about the virus. We've got better treatment. So I see us being in a much better place as we come through this." Meanwhile, a top scientist warned people to expect further mutations this year as the virus responds to the vaccine role. Sir John Bell, Regius Professor of Medicine at the University of Oxford, said some mutations have quite profound resistance to existing, and he told the Common Science Committee, "We need to be ready to make new vaccines if we need them, but I am pretty clear our existing vaccines are going to work." Professor Dame Angela McLean, the Deputy Chief Scientific Advisor, told the same MPs there needs to be a long gap after reopening schools before any other parts of the economy are on. She said lifting restrictions significantly while large numbers of vulnerable people remain unvaccinated risks. But Professor Mark Woolhouse, who advises the government on the pandemic, said ministers should not ignore good news about the vaccines. He said, "If you're driven by the data and not by dates, right now, you should be looking at earlier unlocking." And he said there is no evidence to suggest busy outdoor spaces, such as crowded beaches, are linked to outbreaks of the virus.